Minho pushed his cleaning cart down the long corridor of the Celestial Nexus space station. The lights were dim during night shift, and he liked it that way. The quiet gave him peace. He had been working as a janitor here for 5 years now, cleaning the diplomatic wings where alien species from across the galaxy met to talk about important things. He was 32 years old and lived alone in a small room near the maintenance section. Most people didn't notice him. He wore simple, gray uniforms and kept his head down. But Minho didn't mind being invisible. He found meaning in his work. Every clean floor, every polished window, every organized supply closet made the station a little better. Tonight was different, though. The main hall was full of aliens. A huge ceremony was happening. Minho had been told to stay away from that area, but his supervisor called him on his comm device. "Minho, report to the Grand Assembly Hall immediately," the voice said. Minho felt confused. He never went to the assembly hall during events. "Is there a spill? I need to clean? Just come now. It's urgent." Minho left his cart and walked toward the bright lights and loud voices. When the doors opened, he saw hundreds of aliens from dozens of species. They all turned to look at him. His heart started beating fast. At the center of the room stood the Velrathi. Minho had seen them before. They were tall and thin, with skin that glowed with beautiful patterns of light. The patterns showed their rank in society. The brightest ones were the most important. Emperor Thranvel stood on a raised platform. His skin blazed with white and silver light. Next to him stood a female Velrathi, who was different from any Minho had seen. She was large, very large. Her body was round and heavy. Her skin barely glowed at all, just tiny dim spots of light that looked sad. "Bring the human forward," the Emperor commanded. 2 security officers, both human, gently pushed Minho toward the platform. He felt hundreds of eyes watching him. Some aliens whispered. Some laughed. "You are Minho, correct? Sanitation worker, level 1? The Emperor asked. "Yes, sir," Minho said quietly. "Our records show you are the lowest-ranked individual currently serving on this station." "Is this true?" Minho felt his face get hot. I'm a janitor, sir. I don't know about rankings." The Emperor smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Perfect. Human, I present to you my daughter, Velshara, 3rd princess of the Velrathi Empire." He gestured to the large female beside him. "She has disgraced our family and our people. She has allowed herself to become this." He said the last word with disgust. Velshara kept her head down. Minho could see her whole body shaking. "In our culture, physical perfection shows mental discipline and moral strength," the Emperor continued. "Velshara has failed in every way. She is weak. She is undisciplined. She is a shame to our bloodline." Many aliens in the crowd made sounds of agreement. Some laughed. Minho felt sick to his stomach. "As punishment, I am giving her to you. She will serve you as you serve this station. Perhaps learning to obey someone who scrubs floors will teach her the humility and discipline she lacks." The room erupted in laughter. Even some of the other humans looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Minho looked at Velshara. Her head was still bowed. Small drops of liquid fell from her face. She was crying. In that moment, Minho remembered something from Earth's history. He remembered stories of people being humiliated for how they looked. He remembered the cruelty that came from judging others by their bodies. Something inside him got angry. "With respect, Emperor," Minho said, his voice stronger now. "I don't need a servant." The room went quiet. "What did you say?" The Emperor's lights flashed brighter. "I said I don't need a servant, sir." Minho looked directly at the Emperor, then turned to Velshara. "But if the princess wishes, she is welcome to share my quarters. As a guest, as someone deserving of respect." The silence in the room was complete. No one moved. Velshara raised her head for the first time. Her eyes, large and golden, met Minho's. They were full of tears and confusion. "You dare to refuse my judgment?" the Emperor said, his voice cold. "I'm not refusing, sir," Minho said. "I'm accepting the princess. But in my culture, we don't treat people as punishments. We treat them as people." Captain Taehyun, the head of station security, stepped forward. He was human too. "Emperor Thronvel, the janitor is correct. Station law prohibits involuntary servitude. If Princess Velshara is to stay here, it must be as a resident, not a slave." The Emperor's lights flickered with rage, but he couldn't argue with station law. "Fine. She is yours to house then, janitor. Let her learn shame in your tiny quarters. Let her see how the lowest live." He turned to Velshara. "You are no longer my daughter. You are nothing." With that, the Emperor and his delegation left the hall. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering and staring. Minho stood there with Velshara. She was almost twice his height and much wider. She still trembled. "Princess," Minho said gently. "My name is Minho. Would you like to come with me? It's quiet where I live." Velshara looked at him with those golden eyes. "Why did you do that?" Her voice was soft and musical, even filled with sadness. "Because no one deserves to be treated like you were just treated," Minho said simply. "Come on. You must be tired." Bah. As they walked through the corridors toward the maintenance section, Velshara was silent. Minho could feel her confusion and pain. When they reached his small quarters, he opened the door. "It's not much," he said, "but it's clean and safe. You can have the bedroom. I'll sleep on the couch." Velshara stood in the doorway, looking at the simple room. On Earth, Minho had pictures of mountains and oceans. He had books on shelves. He had a small kitchen area. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You are kind to me." "Why?" Minho smiled sadly. "Where I come from, we learned a hard lesson. We learned that judging people by how they look only brings pain and evil. What matters is who you are inside, how you treat others." He pulled out the small couch bed. "You're safe here, princess. No one will hurt you or mock you. Not while I can help it. Not while I can help it." Velshara's eyes filled with tears again. But this time they seemed different. "No one has ever," she started, then stopped. "Thank you." That night, Minho lay on his couch, thinking about what happened. He had probably made powerful enemies, but when he thought of Velshara's face, of her father's cruelty, he knew he had done the right thing. In the bedroom, Velshara lay in the dark, her dim lights barely glowing. For the first time in years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt hope. The first 3 days were strange for both of them. Velshara stayed in the bedroom most of the time. She only came out when she thought Minho was at work. She moved quietly, trying not to take up space, trying to be invisible. But Minho noticed everything. He saw that she wasn't eating. He saw that she looked weaker each day. Her already dim lights were fading even more. On the 4th morning, before he left for work, "Princess, may I talk to you?" There was silence. Then a quiet, "Yes." He opened the door a little. Velshara sat on the floor in the corner, making herself as small as possible, which was hard for someone her size. "I noticed you haven't eaten anything," Minho said. "I don't know what Velrathi eat, but the station has food from many worlds." Velshara looked surprised. "You want to feed me?" "Of course. Everyone needs to eat. But I am already too fat," my father said. "Your father was wrong," Minho said firmly. "And cruel. Everyone needs food to live. Please, tell me what your people eat." Slowly, Velshara explained her dietary needs. Minho listened carefully, asked questions, and took notes on his datapad. That evening, when Minho came home from work, he brought several containers. "I talked to the station nutritionist," he said. "She helped me find foods that match what you need. Will you try some?" They sat at the small table together. It was the first time they had really shared the same space. Minho served the food and began eating his own meal. Velshara watched him. "You eat cooked food?" she asked. "With heat and fire?" "Yes. Humans cook most of our food." "I didn't mean..." "It's okay. I know humans seem simple compared to many species. But we like our ways." He pushed a container toward her. "Please eat. You'll feel better." R2. Velshara ate slowly at first, then faster. She hadn't realized how hungry she was. Minho just ate his own food. Not staring at her. Not commenting on how much she ate. It was such a small thing. But it meant everything. Over the next week, they fell into a routine. Minho went to work during the night shift. Velshara began to eat regularly. She started to look a little healthier, though she was still weak. One evening, Minho came home to find Velshara crying quietly in the living area. He set down his things and sat in a chair nearby, not too close, giving her space. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently. "I miss my home," she whispered. "I miss my sisters. My mother died when I was young, and my sisters raised me. But now they won't even answer my messages. I am dead to them." "I'm sorry," Minho said. "That must hurt terribly." "You lost someone too," Velshara said, noticing the sadness in his voice. "My parents died in a transport accident when I was 20, Minho said. "I had no siblings. I understand what it's like to feel alone." They sat together in comfortable silence. Minho got up and brought her a soft blanket. "It's not much, but it might help you feel a little warmer." Velshara took the blanket and wrapped it around herself. "Why are you so kind to me? You gain nothing from this. In fact, you probably lost respect on the station." Minho shrugged. "Respect from people who judge others based on cruelty isn't respect I want. And as for why..." He thought for a moment. "Where I come from, we have a saying. Treat others as you wish to be treated. It's simple, but true. Your people have many sayings?" "Oh yes. We've been around for a while, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons." He smiled. "We're not the smartest or strongest species in the galaxy, but we try to be decent." The next day, something unexpected happened. Velshara asked if she could come with Minho to work. "You want to watch me clean?" Minho asked, surprised. "I want to understand what you do. You seem happy, even though your job is considered low. I want to understand how that's possible." "We have not you do. I want to understand how that's possible." "We have not possible. I want to understand how that's possible." So, Velshara followed Minho on his night rounds. She watched him clean the corridors, organize supply closets, and polish the windows. She saw how he did everything with care and attention. She noticed how he hummed while he worked. She also noticed how other workers greeted him warmly. The other janitors joked with him. The cafeteria staff saved him extra food. Even some of the lower-level diplomats knew his name and asked how he was doing. "You're respected," Velshara said with wonder. "Even in a low position, people respect you." "They respect the work I do," Minho said. "Every job on this station matters. Without janitors, this place would fall apart. Without cafeteria workers, people would starve. There's dignity in all honest work." This was a completely new idea for Velshara. In her culture, rank was everything. Low positions meant low worth. But here was Minho, a janitor, who had more genuine respect than many high-ranking Velrathi she knew. "Can I help?" she asked suddenly. Minho looked at her in surprise. "You want to clean?" "I want to try." He handed her a cloth and showed her how to wipe down the surfaces. At first, other workers who passed by stared. A Velrathi princess cleaning? It was unheard of. Some whispered. Some laughed. But Velshara kept working. There was something peaceful about it. Something that made her mind quiet. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about her weight, her shame, or her failure. She was just working. A few days later, Minho noticed that Velshara looked sick. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked. "Just tired," she said. But she was breathing hard, and her lights were flickering strangely. "We're going to see a doctor," Minho said firmly. "No. Velrathi doctors already said there's nothing wrong with me. They said I just eat too much and have no discipline. Then we'll see a human doctor." Dr. Sun Hee was a kind woman in her 50s who worked at the station's medical center. She examined Velshara carefully, running tests that Minho didn't understand. After an hour, she called them both into her office. "Princess Velshara," Dr. Sun Hee said gently, "you have a hormonal imbalance. It's causing your body to store energy differently than normal. It's treatable with medication." Velshara stared at her. That's not possible. Velrathi physicians examined me. They said what they believed, based on their cultural assumptions," Dr. Sun Hee said. "But biology doesn't care about culture. You have a medical condition. It's not your fault. It was never your fault." Velshara began to cry. Years of shame, of believing she was weak and undisciplined, came pouring out. Minho moved to her side and gently took her hand. She gripped it tightly. "We'll start treatment today," Dr. Sun Hee said. "It won't change your size quickly, and it may not change it much at all. But you'll feel healthier. Your energy will improve." That night, back in Minho's quarters, Velshara sat quietly on the couch. Minho made tea, another human tradition he had taught her. "All those years," she whispered. "My father, my teachers, everyone told me I was weak, that I had no discipline, and it was just my body, something I couldn't control. I'm sorry," Minho said. "That was cruel and wrong. You believed me from the start," she said, looking at him. "You never once suggested I was lazy or weak." "Because you're not," Minho said simply. "You're brave and kind and smart. I saw that immediately." Velshara felt something warm spread through her chest. For the first time since she was a child, she felt seen, really seen. Not as a failure, or a punishment, or a shame, but as a person. "Thank you, Minho," she said softly. "For everything." He smiled at her. "You're welcome. And Velshara? You're my friend now. Friends help each other." She smiled back, and for the first time in years, her bioluminescent patterns began to glow a little brighter. But the light was different, not the cold white of Velrathi nobility, but a warm, golden color that neither of them had ever seen before. 3 months passed. Velshara was now working alongside Minho every night. At first, the other workers didn't know what to think. A princess pushing a cleaning cart? But slowly, they came to accept her. She was kind to everyone. She worked hard. She never complained. The medication Dr. Sun Hee prescribed helped Velshara feel stronger. She had more energy. Her breathing was easier, and her lights continued to glow in those strange, warm colors, gold and soft blue, like sunset on Earth. Velrathi biologists who studied on the station became curious. They asked to examine her. Velshara refused at first, afraid of more shame. But Minho encouraged her. "Maybe you can help other Velrathi who are suffering like you did," he said. So she agreed. The scientists were amazed. They had never seen these colors in Velrathi biology. They ran tests and studied her patterns. Finally, they gave their report. "Princess Velshara, your bioluminescence has changed because your emotional state has changed," the lead scientist explained. "You are happy, content, at peace. These are not emotions that high-ranking Velrathi typically feel. Our society is built on competition and perfection. We rarely feel joy." Velshara thought about this. It was true. Even before she gained weight, when she was still accepted, she had never felt truly happy. There was always pressure, Always judgment, always fear of failure. But now, the scientist continued, you glow brighter than many high nobles, just in different colors. It's remarkable. Word of this spread through the station. Some aliens found it fascinating. Others found it disturbing. The Velrothi delegation became angry. How dare she shine brightly, while fat? It went against everything they believed. But Velshara didn't care anymore. She was too busy living her new life. She and Minho had fallen into a beautiful friendship. They cooked together, she learned to make Korean dishes from his childhood, and he learned to prepare Velrothi nutrition supplements. They talked for hours about everything. They laughed together. Sometimes, late at night after work, they would sit by the large viewing window in the common area and watch the stars. Minho would point out Earth's sun, too far away to see, but in a specific direction. Velshara would point toward the Velrothi home system. Do you miss it? Minho asked one night. Parts of it, Velshara admitted. I miss my sisters, especially Kira. She was the oldest, the perfect one. But she was kind to me when we were children. I wonder if she thinks of me. I'm sure she does. One evening, Velshara was organizing cleaning supplies when she noticed something. Minho, the schedule for the janitorial staff is inefficient. Different species have different rest periods, but the schedule doesn't account for that. Workers are constantly tired. I know. Minho sighed. I've mentioned it to management, but they don't listen to janitors. What if I present it? Velshara asked. I was trained in diplomatic protocol and resource management. Let me try. 1. She created a new schedule. One that respected each species' biological needs while improving coverage. She presented it to the station management. At first, they were skeptical, but the plan was so well designed that they had to accept it. The janitorial staff was grateful. Workers had better rest. The station was cleaner. Efficiency improved. Soon, other departments asked Velshara to help them too. She became an unofficial consultant, still working as a janitor but also helping improve systems throughout the station. She found she loved this work, using her education and intelligence to help normal workers have better lives. You're good at this, Minho told her proudly. You're making real change. I learned from the best, she said, smiling at him. It was around this time that Minho realized his feelings for Velshara had changed. She wasn't just his friend. She was more. He loved her laugh. He loved how her lights danced when she was excited. He loved her kindness and her strength, but he said nothing. How could he? She was a princess. He was a janitor. Even if her people had rejected her, even if she worked beside him, the gap between them seemed too large. Velshara was having similar thoughts. She found herself waiting eagerly for Minho to come home from his solo errands. She loved cooking for him. She loved their quiet evenings together. When he smiled at her, her heart beat faster. One day, Minho brought her flowers from the station's botanical garden. I thought they might brighten up our quarters, he said, a little embarrassed. Velshara took them carefully. In Velrothi culture, flowers symbolized deep affection. Thank you, she whispered, her lights glowing warm gold. Their hands touched as she took the flowers. Neither pulled away quickly. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. Then, Minho's comm device beeped. The moment passed. But something had shifted between them. 2 days later, everything changed. A Velrothi ship arrived at the station. Velshara's sister, Princess Kira, was on board with a delegation of nobles. Minho and Velshara were working when Captain Taehyun found them. Princess Velshara, your sister has requested a meeting. Well, any for? Velshara's lights dimmed with fear. I don't want to see her. She says it's urgent. Something about family business. Minho took Velshara's hand. I'll come with you. They met in a private conference room. Kira entered with 3 other Velrothi nobles. Kira was everything. Velshara was not tall, thin, blazing with cold white light. She was beautiful by Velrathi standards. But when Kira saw her sister, she stopped. Velshara? You're glowing. Hello, Kira, Velshara said quietly. Kira's eyes moved to Minho. And this is the human janitor, the one father gave you to. His name is Minho, Velshara said firmly. And father didn't give me to anyone. Minho offered me friendship when everyone else offered only cruelty. One of the nobles with Kira laughed. Look at you, sister. Still fat, still shameful, and now you clean floors with a primitive human. How far you've fallen. 1-1. Velshara felt old shame rising. But Minho stepped forward. With respect, your sister has risen, not fallen. She helps hundreds of workers have better lives. She's valued and respected here for her intelligence and kindness. That's worth more than all your cold lights. The nobles looked shocked that a janitor dared speak to them this way, but Kira raised her hand for silence. She approached Velshara slowly. Is it true? Are you happy here? Velshara looked at Minho, then back at her sister. Yes. For the first time in my life, I'm truly happy. Kira's lights flickered with emotion. I came to rescue you, to bring you home. Father is sick, and the court is fighting over succession. They want you to return, to give up any claim to the throne officially. I have no claim to a throne that rejected me, Velshara said. This is my home now. You would choose this? Choose poverty? Choose a janitor over royalty? One of the nobles demanded. I choose freedom, Velshara said. I choose kindness. I choose a life where I'm valued for who I am, not for my rank or my appearance. She looked at Minho. I choose happiness, the noble sneered. Then you're a fool. Kira, let's leave this disgrace to her fate. But Kira was still looking at her sister's glowing lights. Those colors. I've never seen anything like them. They're beautiful. They're the colors of joy, Velshara said softly. Something our people rarely feel. Kira was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, If you wish to stay, you must prove this human is worthy of you. Our laws require it. What do you mean? Velshara asked. I invoke the trial of merit, Kira announced. If this janitor truly values you, he must prove his worth through our traditional tests. If he fails, you must return home. Minho felt his stomach drop. I'm just a janitor. I can't compete with nobles. Then my sister returns with us, Kira said. Those are the terms. Velshara grabbed Minho's arm. No, I won't let them take me. But Minho looked at Velshara's frightened face and made his decision. I accept the trial. When does it begin? Kira smiled slightly. Tomorrow. As the Velrathi delegation left, Velshara turned to Minho with tears in her eyes. Why did you agree? You can't win. The tests are designed for Velrathi nobles. Minho took both her hands in his. Because you're worth fighting for. I don't know if I'll win, but I have to try. In that moment, both of them finally understood what they'd been feeling for months. This wasn't just friendship anymore. This was love. The Grand Assembly Hall was packed with aliens from every species on the station. Word of the trial of merit had spread quickly. Everyone wanted to see if a human janitor could pass tests designed for Velrathi nobility. Minho stood in the center of the hall, wearing his simple gray uniform. He had refused to dress in anything fancier. This is who I am, he had told Velshara that morning. I won't pretend to be something else. Velshara sat in the front row with Captain Taehyun and Dr. Sunhee. Her lights were dim with worry. She kept her hands clasped tightly together. Kira stood on the platform with the other Velrathi judges. Her expression was unreadable. The trial of merit consists of 5 tests, she announced. Political wisdom, technological knowledge, physical prowess, artistic mastery, and societal value. I am, Minho said quietly. The first test was political wisdom. They presented him with a complex diplomatic scenario involving 3 alien species with conflicting trade interests. He had to propose a solution. Minho listened carefully to the problem. Then he gave his answer. It was simple and focused on fairness rather than power plays. The Velrathi judges shook their heads. Too simple. Too naive. You show no understanding of political leverage. You fail. Some aliens in the crowd laughed. Velshara's lights dimmed further. The second test was technological knowledge. They showed him advanced Velrathi technology and asked him to explain how it worked and how to improve it. Minho looked at the devices. He understood basic human technology, but this was far beyond him. I don't know, he admitted honestly. This technology is beyond my training. Failure, the judges declared. The third test was physical prowess. They brought out a Velrathi warrior in peak condition. Minho had to compete in tests of strength, speed, and endurance. It was a disaster. The Velrathi warrior was taller, stronger, and faster. Minho tried his best, but he lost every single contest. By the end, he was breathing hard and sweating. Pathetic, one of the nobles said loud enough for everyone to hear. Failure. The fourth test was artistic mastery. They asked him to create something beautiful, using Velrathi artistic methods, complex light sculptures that required precise manipulation of bioluminescent materials. Minho had never even seen these materials before. He tried, but his creation was clumsy and dim. The Velrathi judges barely looked at it before declaring, failure. 4 failures. The crowd was buzzing now. This was going exactly as everyone expected. A lowly janitor couldn't possibly compete with Velrathi standards. Velshara had tears streaming down her face. Dr. Sunhee held her hand. It's not over yet, Sunhee whispered, though even she sounded doubtful. Kira raised her hand for silence. One test remains. The test of societal value. Minho of Earth, you must demonstrate why society should value you. You have 1 hour. Minho stood there in the center of the hall, still catching his breath from the physical tests. He looked tired, defeated. The crowd waited for him to give some grand speech, to make promises, to beg. Instead, Minho pulled out his comm device. Captain Taehyun, there's a critical situation developing in Waste Management Sector 7, right? The one that's been building for weeks? Taehyun looked surprised. Yes. The backup systems are failing. We've been trying to fix it, but we can't evacuate that section without shutting down life support to 3 residential wings. I know how to fix it, Minho said, but I need help. I need the sanitation crew, the engineering team, and volunteers from every department. For the next hour, while the crowd watched in confusion, Minho did what he did best. He coordinated. He called the janitorial staff and explained the problem in simple terms. He brought in engineers and translated their technical language into words the workers could understand. He organized teams by species, accounting for their different strengths and environmental needs. We need 3 teams, he explained. Team 1 will reroute the backup flow. Team 2 will reinforce the containment. Team 3 will maintain life support in the residential areas. Everyone works together. He didn't order people. He asked them. He valued their input. When a young Krellian engineer had an idea, Minho listened and incorporated it. When one of the older janitors pointed out a potential problem, Minho adjusted the plan. The crowd watched as workers from every level of the station came together. Ambassadors watched janitors working alongside engineers. Security officers helped maintenance crews. It was beautiful chaos, but Minho moved through it calmly, encouraging everyone, solving problems as they arose. And then, exactly 58 minutes after he started, the crisis was resolved. The waste management system was stable. Life support was secure. The station was safe. The workers cheered. They hugged each other. Several of them hugged Minho. He walked back to the center of the hall, still in his gray uniform, still looking like a simple janitor. "That's my value to society," he said quietly. "I see problems. I help solve them. I bring people together. I treat everyone with respect, from ambassadors to sanitation workers. That's all I have to offer." The hall was silent. Then something unexpected happened. Workers from the crowd started standing up. Janitors, cooks, engineers, medical staff, security officers. Hundreds of them, one by one. They spoke. "Minho helped me when I first arrived on the station. I was lost and scared. He showed me where to go and made sure I had everything I needed. Minho reorganized our shift schedules so we could observe our religious practices. When my child was sick, Minho covered my shifts for a week without asking for anything in return. He knows all of our names, every single person who works on this station. He remembers our families, our problems, our dreams." The testimonials went on and on. Velshara watched with wonder as the true scope of Minho's impact became clear. He had touched hundreds of lives through small acts of kindness. Ambassador Yuna, the station director and a human woman, stood up. "I've run this station for 10 years, she said. "I've met with presidents and emperors, but I've learned more about leadership from watching Minho than from all my diplomatic training. He makes this station work, not through power or rank, but through compassion and dedication." Kira was silent for a long time. She looked at Minho, then at her sister. Velshara was glowing brighter than Kira had ever seen, her lights pulsing with pride and love. Finally, Kira spoke. "I came here expecting to see my sister living in shame. I expected to find her broken, ready to beg for rescue." She paused. "Instead, I found her thriving. I found her glowing brighter than any Velrathi I've ever seen. And I found the reason why. She looked directly at Minho. "You failed every test we set for you. You are not a politician, not an engineer, not a warrior, not an artist. By our standards, you are nothing." Minho nodded. He had known he would fail. "But our standards are wrong," Kira said, her voice shaking. "We value perfection over kindness, power over compassion, beauty over character. We exile our own people for medical conditions. We treat those who serve as less than those who rule." She looked at Velshara. "And we drove away someone precious because she didn't fit our narrow definition of worth." Kira turned to the other Velrathi nobles. "I declare this trial complete. Minho of Earth has proven his value beyond any doubt. He has my blessing to be with my sister." The nobles started to protest, but Kira's lights flared with authority. "Enough. I am the eldest princess and heir to the throne. My word is law in this matter." But then Dr. Sunhee stood up. "There's something else the court should know." She pulled up medical files on the large screens. "I've been researching Velrathi medical practices. Princess Velshara isn't the only one with hormonal conditions. I estimate 20 to 30% of your population has similar issues. But your medical establishment ignores it because acknowledging it would mean admitting your people aren't perfect." The Velrathi nobles looked shocked and angry, but aliens from other species were murmuring. This was a scandal. "How many Velrathi have been exiled?" Sunhee continued. "How many have been shamed and rejected for conditions they couldn't control? Your empire is built on cruelty, disguised as standards." Kira's lights flickered with emotion. "Anger, shame, realization. This information needs to reach our homeworld," she said quietly. "It will," Ambassador Yuna said. "This trial was broadcast across the station's public network. It's already spreading." Minho walked over to Velshara. She stood up, and he took her hands. "I'm sorry I failed most of the tests," he said. "You didn't fail anything that matters," she said, her voice full of emotion. "You showed them who you really are. That takes more courage than passing any test. In front of hundreds of witnesses, Minho pulled Velshara close and kissed her gently. Her lights exploded into brilliant gold and blue, brighter than any Velrothi in the room, brighter than the stars outside the windows. The crowd erupted in cheers. The next few weeks were chaotic. News of the trial spread across the galaxy. The revelation about Velrothi medical practices caused outrage on the Velrothi homeworld. Citizens who had been shamed for their appearance began to speak out. They demanded answers. They demanded change. Emperor Thranvel tried to suppress the uprising. He called it lies and propaganda. But too many people had suffered under his regime. The protests grew larger each day. Meanwhile, on the celestial nexus, Minho and Velshara were simply trying to live their lives. They continued working together on the night shift. They continued improving systems for the station's workers. But now everyone knew they were in love. "How does it feel to be famous?" Captain Taehyun joked one evening. Minho groaned. "Terrible. I just want to do my job." But he couldn't escape the attention. News outlets from across the galaxy wanted interviews. Some called him a hero. Some called him a symbol. He refused them all. "I'm not a symbol," he told Velshara one night. "I'm just a man who loves you." "I know," she said, her lights glowing warmly. "But you've inspired people. Not just humans. All species. You've shown them that kindness matters more than power." 3 weeks after the trial, Kira returned to the station. She looked tired. Her lights were dimmer than before. "Sister," Velshara said, embracing her. "What happened?" "Everything is falling apart at home," Kira said. "The protests are everywhere. Father refuses to change anything. He's sent military forces to suppress the crowds." She paused. "People are dying, Velshara. Our own people." Velshara's lights flickered with pain. "What can we do?" "I need your help," Kira said. "You and Minho. You've started something that can't be stopped. But it needs direction. The protesters need a leader who understands what they're fighting for." "I can't lead a revolution," Velshara said. "I'm not a leader." "Yes, you are," Minho said gently. "Look at what you've done here. You've changed how this entire station operates. You've given workers rights and dignity. You can do the same for your people." Velshara thought about all the Velrothi who had been exiled like her, shamed for things they couldn't control. She thought about the children growing up in a system that would reject them for the smallest imperfection. "What do you need from us?" she asked Kira. Over the next week, Velshara and Minho worked with Kira to organize a new initiative. They called it the Sanctuary Project. It would provide medical care, shelter, and support for any being rejected by their society for failing to meet arbitrary standards. The Celestial Nexus agreed to host the first sanctuary center. Ambassador Yuna allocated space in the station's residential section. Dr. Sunhee agreed to lead the medical program. Captain Taehyun provided security. But on the Velrothi homeworld, things got worse. Emperor Thranvel declared Velshara and Kira traitors. He sent a military vessel to the Celestial Nexus with orders to arrest both princesses and bring them home for trial. When the Velrothi warship arrived, the entire station went on alert. Minho held Velshara's hand as they watched the ship dock. "I won't let them take you," he said fiercely. "They have an entire military ship," Velshara said. "What can we do?" "Boat." But something unexpected happened. Ambassador Yuna called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 30 different species gathered. "The Velrothi Empire seeks to arrest 2 individuals under our protection," Yuna announced. "Princess Kira and Princess Velshara have committed no crimes under station law. They have only spoken the truth and offered help to those in need. I call for a vote of protection." One by one, the species voted. Some abstained, not wanting to anger the powerful Velrothi Empire. But most voted to protect the sisters. Even species that usually sided with the Velrothi voted against the Emperor's arrest order. The Velrothi commander was forced to leave empty-handed. It was a humiliating defeat for the Emperor. Kira watched the warship depart with sad eyes. This means war with our father. He won't forgive this. But she was wrong. 2 days later, shocking news arrived from the Velrathi homeworld. Emperor Thranvel had been overthrown, not by military force, but by the High Council of Velrath. They had voted unanimously to remove him from power for crimes against his own people. The council offered the throne to Kira. She was the eldest, the rightful heir. Kira met with Velshara and Minho in private. They want me to return and rule, to fix what father broke. Will you go? Velshara asked. I have to, Kira said, but I'm terrified. I don't know how to lead a people who have been taught cruelty for generations. Minho spoke up. Start small. Start with the truth. Acknowledge the pain your people have caused. Offer medical care to those who need it. Change the laws that allow exile for appearance. Show them a different way. Kira looked at him with respect. You should come with me. Both of you. Velshara as my advisor. And you as... No, Minho said gently. That's not my place. My place is here. On this station. Doing the work I love. But we'll help however we can from here. Kira left a week later to begin her rule. She promised to stay in contact, to continue the reforms, to change Velrathi society from within. Velshara and Minho stood at the docking bay, watching her ship depart. Do you think she'll succeed? Velshara asked. I think she'll try her best, Minho said. And that's all anyone can do. 1 month later, Minho and Velshara were married. It was a simple ceremony in one of the station's gardens, surrounded by friends. Captain Taehyun performed the ceremony. Dr. Sunhee cried happy tears. The entire janitorial staff attended, along with cafeteria workers, engineers, and even some diplomats. Velshara wore a simple dress that Minho had chosen for her. It was blue, like Earth's oceans. Minho wore his best suit, though he felt uncomfortable in anything fancier than his work clothes. When they exchanged vows, Velshara's lights blazed so brightly that they illuminated the entire garden. The guests gasped at the beauty. I promise to cherish you, Minho said, his voice strong and clear. Not because you're a princess or because of your rank, but because you're kind and brave, and you make me want to be a better person. I will love you always, exactly as you are. Velshara was crying, but her lights were joyful. I promise to stand beside you, to support your work, to build a life of meaning and purpose with you. You saw me when no one else would. You gave me hope when I had none. I will love you always, with all that I am. They kissed, and the crowd cheered. Over the following years, the Sanctuary Project grew. The Celestial Nexus Center expanded to accommodate hundreds of refugees from dozens of worlds. Velshara managed it all, with skill and compassion. She became known across the galaxy as the princess who chose love. Minho continued his janitorial work, though Ambassador Yuna finally convinced him to accept a small promotion. He became the cultural liaison for the station's working class, helping ensure that all workers were treated with dignity and respect. But he still cleaned. He still pushed his cart through the corridors at night. It brought him peace. They adopted children over the years. First was a small Velrathi boy named Hyun who had been exiled for being too small. Then came a Krellian girl with a physical disability that her people had rejected. Later, they adopted a human orphan named Ji-hoon, who had lost his parents in a mining accident. Their quarters were too small for their growing family, so they moved to larger spaces. But they kept everything simple. No luxury, no status symbols. Just a warm, loving home. 5 years after the trial, Velshara received a message from Kira. The reforms were working. Velrathi society was slowly changing. Medical care was available for all conditions. Exile based on appearance was now illegal. The culture of perfection was beginning to crack. There's something else, Kira's message said. Come to the central plaza in our capital. I have a surprise for you. Minho and Velshara traveled to the Velrathi homeworld for the first time since Velshara's exile. The planet was beautiful. all crystalline structures and flowing lights. But Velshara felt nervous. Kira met them at the plaza. She led them to the center, where a large cloth covered something tall. When history remembers this era, Kira said to the gathered crowd, they will remember the day we learned to value kindness over perfection. The day we learned that true beauty comes from within. And they will remember the two people who taught us this lesson. She pulled the cloth away. Beneath was a statue carved from luminous crystal. It showed Velshara and Minho standing together, hands clasped. Velshara was shown exactly as she was, large, glowing with her unique colors. Minho was shown in his simple janitor's uniform. At the base of the statue, inscribed in every known language in the galaxy, were the words, "They taught us to see." Velshara cried. Minho held her close, overwhelmed by the honor. That night, as they prepared to return to the celestial nexus, Velshara stood at the window of their temporary quarters, looking out at her home planet. "Do you ever regret it?" Minho asked. "Giving up your throne? Your status? Everything you were born to?" Velshara turned to him, her lights glowing with pure happiness. "I gave up a throne I never wanted to sit on. I gave up a status built on cruelty. I gave up nothing of value." She took his hands. "And I gained everything. I gained love. I gained purpose. I gained you. I gained you." Minho kissed her gently. "I'm just a janitor." "No," she said, smiling. "You're the man who saw me when I was invisible. You're the man who valued kindness over power. You're the man who changed the galaxy. One small act of compassion at a time." Her lights pulsed warmly. "You're my home." They returned to the celestial nexus the next day. Hyun and the other children ran to greet them. Captain Taehyun waved from down the corridor. Dr. Sunhee called to invite them for dinner. Minho put on his gray uniform and grabbed his cleaning cart. Velshara joined him, and together they walked through the familiar corridors of the station. Ready to start their next shift, they were exactly where they belonged. Together, doing the work they loved. Surrounded by people who valued them not for their ranks or their appearance, but for their hearts. And as they worked side by side, Velshara's lights glowing in those impossible shades of gold and blue, both of them knew a simple truth, that love is not about perfection. Love is about seeing someone truly, completely, and choosing to cherish them exactly as they are. That was the lesson they had taught the galaxy. And it was the lesson they would continue to live every single day for the rest of their lives.